It's the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague at Avenue 9. You can find us at avenue9.com, where we are helping people with all things, I would say, context engineering. Do the human hard part first so that AI can take over and do the easy part next. And my guest this week is going to talk about that. He's got the tool to do they help you with all the easy parts or make them easier. Dan Baird at Wrench AI also hosts the Burn the Map podcast. If you're looking to go without a map, he is your man. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, burn the map. Yeah. I gave us the wrong idea. The idea there was to go, hey, you've actually mapped everything there is to be mapped. You're moving off the map. So you've learned the lessons that are available, and now you're going beyond the lessons.
I like that. Yeah, I see it as like a fun way to say out of the box. Like I think I don't know if you stole this from the same person I did, but I think I got it from Seth Godin, where it's like, if somebody gives you a treasure map and somebody else is telling you how they got to success, it doesn't really help you much. That's like having a used treasure map. By the time you get there, the treasure's already gone, but also everybody else has this map. It's publicly available on the internet. And 3, you're not starting in the same place they are. So their map is no good to you.
This
you
is to some extent, yes, this is the reality that we're all kind of living through right now, right? There are lessons to be learned. History repeats itself, and simultaneously what got you here will not get you there right now. Definitely not right now. So
it feels like really, I mean, we're always living in unprecedented times, but it feels like really the last 3 years is something that like people haven't lived through this kind of
It's quite the disruption. Yeah. And a big part of it too is usually, like, I come from a background in developing new products and working on like innovation strategy, sitting behind a lot of one-way glass and stuff, trying to understand human behavior. That's kind of what I got into this to do. And just the reality is, which I dislike, is we're all in businesses now that involve significant behavior change. The interacting with AI is a different way of finding things online, is a different way of doing your job. People are always saying, hey, the people that lose their jobs are going to be the ones that don't adopt AI. And you're going, to some extent, you have to learn a new skill. You have to learn a new skill that changes every damn quarter at this point. Yeah. And what worked, I even look at stuff from a year ago and, oh, that's cute. How adorable. And
look at all the M dashes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, definitely unprecedented.
It's not the M dash that gives AI away now. It's the repetitive sentences.
Oh yeah, that's and there's and will continue to evolve, right? There's always another one, but
there's always going to be I consider it like a magic trick. Like the magic trick is so awesome the first time we see it, like Google Notebooks podcast, and then the second time you listen to one, you go, "Oh, this is a magic trick." I see the trick now. Yeah.
So one of the reasons I got into this business is just the fact that it will continue to evolve. There is no end point. This is the journey, where the journey is part of the fun and the exercise of it. Because again, just like last year was adorable, that novelty wore off quickly, and it will continue to wear off quickly. So we're not done. Even if we go, it's not like we're going to come to some conclusion next year that like, okay, pause. It's like, no, when it comes to marketing, a significant reason that it works is people tend to have like exponential responses to emotional cues, right? And then that novelty is the equivalent of the word new in marketing. It only works for so long before you can't call your product new anymore, and you got to make something or do something else to make it novel. So I go,
I think there's also something else to be said about that map and the shortcuts that we were talking about there. The shortcuts only work for a certain amount of time. Then once everybody knows about them, that's just the usual way. That's no longer a shortcut. It gets congested and everybody's taking that way.
Exactly.
So I feel like that's where the state of AI is right now. What this podcast is all about is that so many people are looking to AI for a shortcut. And all I have to do is set up this automated matrix of agents in the perfect order, and then I'm done. I sit back, I make money while I sleep. I'm heading to the Bahamas. Like
my work is done here. I have worked for years to try to kind of work myself out of that job that, like you mentioned, Seth Godin, one of his other things, he has that linchpin book where he talks about the more responsibility you take on, the more people hand it to you. The more you make yourself irrelevant, you'd think that people would be like, okay, well, we never need that person again. It's like, no. They just hand you the next level up job, right? And it's kind of doing the same thing. You're building your infrastructure from the bottom up. You're building your org chart from the bottom up. You're taking the most repetitive, the most drudgery type tasks. You're turning those into something that can be automated and pushed out of the way. And now you become their boss and you go, now I'm curating. Okay, cool. Now I've got curation under control. Now I'm going to go on to something else and I'm going to start working on infrastructure systems or governance or whatever else. But yeah.
So I think that bridges us nicely into Wrench AI and what you're doing there with different types of, I would say, AI marketing, because automation is part of it. But I always talk to people, I think when they hear AI marketing, they go, oh, generative AI. Oh, you make a lot of marketing stuff. And both of us do part of that, but there's also predictive analytics and lead scoring and all kinds of really cool things that I find fascinating, because I think it's really good marketing. If you get hyper targeted on your audience and you're looking for the right signals, and then you hyper personalize your message to that audience, there's zero waste in that system. There's zero people who don't want to hear from you. There's zero ad dollars spent on trying to go viral. Like it really seems like a smart way to go for me. How did you get there?
A few different ways. I worked when I was in college, one of the best, I went and watched it's kind of like a TED talk, and they had billionaires come in, and every day they had a new different, not necessarily all billionaires, but there were a few billionaires, guys like self-made people. And one of my friends asked the same question, all of them, like, hey, what was one of the best skills that you ever did? What were one of the jobs that you took? What were something that like you did that was like unconventional and one of the most useful things? And almost every one of them said, I went and learned sales from someone who really understood it. Different way, shape, or form, but they almost all said that in some way, shape, or form. I did that, and I went to work for the largest direct sales force on the planet, called Hilti. They do construction equipment, really nice, really cool stuff. Really, really like it. They're like the Ferrari of like cordless drills, and really expensive, really cool stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
Really, really good, and really, really, really good trainer there. And one of the things I found out working under him was the best salespeople ask the most questions. They're the best listeners. They're the ones that actually ask those questions first. And that stuck with me as a really big deal. And I took it into like later parts of my career as understanding, again, like if you really want to have a really successful sales exercise, you spend about 40% of your time doing research. You really set the stage for success. And that followed me when I went in to do a lot of that work, sitting behind one-way glass and watching people's decision-making hierarchies. You build a product and you start to understand, like, how do they sort through the decision on whether or not they want it? A ton of it that I found out that people use, like part of that map that people tend to use, the elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is what you like to hear. It's not what your audience needs to hear.
Right.
The best messages do adapt to their audience. And oftentimes the clearest and the most or the least psychological friction comes because you did that research. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing, yes, I know ChatGPT can personalize your conversations to you and it adapts a little bit to you. It doesn't, and doesn't do it well, adapt to your audience. It kind of, everyone says that. They all sound vanilla. Hey, they all got this like perky little helpful kind of quirky thing. It's not everybody's bag of things. So a lot of the tech that we're doing is we're analyzing and going a level deeper than that. And we're starting to, like you said, LLMs hallucinate. They make stuff up. They look great until you dig into the answers, or if you're below average, they look really good. And then if you're above average, that's not even possible, not nearly good enough. And one of the
I don't want to interrupt you on your train of thought, so save it. But I had a client yesterday, I created an article for them, and there was a nice statistic in there, and they go, did that come from our data or did it make that up? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I used a lot of your data in this, but like I was hoping you could tell me whether that was a real stat or not. Right? You're in the industry.
And well, so now the evolution that you're seeing, like the next thing 2 years ago is, can it make an image? Now it can make an image that's photo quality, right? The next thing that people are asking for is starting to turn into governance and getting out of the black box. I want the explanation and I want the proof of the decision-making logic that it made. I want ROI. I want hard numbers. And you can ask those agents to do so, but if you've played with it for even more than a few minutes, you'll see that it's not even that good at arithmetic. No. One of the shortcuts to getting real underlying ROI data, to your point earlier, is using machine learning, underlying data tables. So instead of having the LLM do the computation on your behalf, which you don't know how it does it, and most of the time it's just using high frequency words, it's not actually doing any reasoning. You can go and point it to, hey, here are the tables for my lead score, and here's all the logic behind my lead score. And therefore, it basically goes, it's easier for me to look up and give you and fetch that answer than it is to think through it. That's a more efficient use of its tokens. It's more like to give you a reliable answer. So We use and have a bunch of underlying data that basically does things that processes people's bios and generates things like, hey, we measure 5 dimensions of their personality. If you're using 3 exclamation points, we know you're an extrovert. We know that extroverts really prefer to talk to other extroverts. We know that we can adapt the message, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, to be an extrovert on their behalf, because it reduces the psychological friction from that communication. And even if you don't necessarily increase and you have a better sales pitch, you get a faster no, which means you can move on to the next one and get a faster yes. And you can still get even just 15% increases in revenue just from that. I got to a no faster. That's doing you a favor. That's a wonderful thing. You're talking to the wrong person. Perfect. See,
I
awesome.
love your sales psychology here too. I came from a long sales
Yeah.
background with Sandler training, and
Yeah.
a lot of the same things in there. But that's kind of how I ended up putting together my AI marketing plans and stuff too. Is it's funny. I always said that I was better at marketing than I was sales, even though I taught it for 15 years, because I like to win more than I like to lose. And
Nice.
so if you do marketing right, and I'm talking to the right audience, more of them should want to hear this message than not hear this message, right?
Oh, yeah.
In sales, I still think if you got a really good funnel, if you've optimized every part of this, over 50% of people that set a first appointment should set a second appointment. Over 50% of your proposals should end up in closed business. If you're doing this right and you're hyper targeted, hyper personalizing, like you said, we're really looking at who they are, why they buy, and we're adapting our messages to their pains and their personality and all of this stuff. We should win more than we lose. And so many people settle for, on the marketing side of things, let me blast this message to a million people and spam the hell out of everybody because I only need 1% of a million people to take that next CTA.
And what
it's
they don't realize is 1%. I can do that 1% shift by myself, right? I can start with that 1%. Much easier, right? Everybody, bigger, fewer, better. Bigger, fewer, better. I want to talk to fewer people. I want bigger, better clients. I want better marketing and interactions between them. That is worth its weight in gold. It's like compound interest. It's magical, magical stuff. And it's such a better and easier conversation. I don't know about you, a ton of people listening to this. You're moving into a world where org charts and organizations are going to be smashed. They're getting the middle knocked out of them. Middle management is going away. Good luck, good riddance. I don't care. And it's fine. And I've been there too. And I'm happy to move on. They're going to be in smaller teams with highly efficient roles where they're doing and they have less overlap between their peers. And a big part of that is ultimately going to be, you're going to be a specialist. You're going to have a more targeted kind of audience. You're going to want to, and you'll be happy working with the smaller audience. Trust me, like those big, huge campaigns. I've always a ton of those. Like I had one from a really big company once just be like, hey, if you could actually prove any of my numbers have any impact on a region around like a grocery store. This is a CPG client. But they're just like, I'll give you 175 grand a month if you can just even prove my numbers actually even work. I was going like, and this was like, you've all heard of them, company, huge.
Yeah.
I'm going, they don't know their numbers at it's not Coca-Cola, but it's up at that level. It's up there. Like they're going, don't even know. It's like, no.
It's hard with branding at that point. They're basically sticking a finger in the air. If you run a Super Bowl ad and say, did do the sales go up from this over the next few months or years? But attribution is impossible. And that's what I think is really cool that people are missing with the modern state of marketing. And we've been doing attribution, lead scoring, automation and stuff for a long time. But AI, I think, really kicks it up a notch and makes it accessible to smaller businesses. Both you and I have experience with big brands, and sure, they could hire teams of people and outsourced vendors and specialists overseas and copywriters and image creators and all of the stuff that was necessary 3 years ago to make a really optimized funnel happen. Now you can do by yourself in a small business, right?
Oh, I loved it. So I used to work at Conagra and they do Orville Redenbacher, and I worked on Healthy Choice and a bunch of stuff. You go into your grocery store, you can see my poetry written on your frozen lasagna. I worked in those companies, but hats off to you, like the human side of marketing. We would spend massive, massive amounts of money. You can't fake one. You can't do a study that says, hey, will you buy this, and get an authentic answer. You need to ask someone to take out their wallet. Yep. And then the other one is just authenticity is really hard to fake. In 2014-ish, you saw crowdfunding and stuff hit. And I loved it just because I went, this flips logistics on its head. Like I had worked at a company that kind of went viral, for lack of a better term, at the time called Lovesac. These are huge
Yeah.
beanbags. I was one of the founders at Lovesac.
Amazing.
And they're good time, man. Good time. I was Dan the Lovesac man for a good 10 plus years. And
Okay.
one of the things, like, we had an underdog kind of wind at our back for a big part of that. And we had all of the double entendre of the dirty joke as the company title and all that stuff. But that authenticity of, hey, we were a strapping, bootstrapped in Utah was a huge, I'm from Utah, and it was a big kind of wind at our sails. Crowdfunding did the same thing. And we just, when I was working at Conagra, just like, you have to spend so much money, get celebrities, do all these other things that someone could just be like, hey, it's just me. I really care about this business. I've been working in my basement for 10 years. Just please take a look. Like, you can't do that with Coca-Cola. It doesn't work that way. And so we live in a time now where they have those big companies, but you can legitimately get just as much buy-in being that person that is legitimately really passionate about your work. Super cool time.
I think that's fun for small businesses. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last couple of years too, is like you have the resources with the right strategy and the right tools to play with those big dogs. The playing field is leveled in AEO instead of SEO. And as of the time we're recording right now, they can't buy ads. Like, they can't beat you. They have a PR advantage and they have some credibility advantages, but they don't have authenticity advantages. They don't have nimbleness at their side and stuff like that. So there's a ton of advantages. I think, love to hear what you think. For me, it's large, small businesses to mid-market, I think, are the big winners. If you're an individual micro business, tough. You're going to have to learn how to do this yourself, and you're going to have to get uncomfortable. If you're a huge company, you got to make big bets. Like, you're competing against people building custom things for millions of dollars. Like, you better get after it, and you can't afford to be disrupted. But in this mid-market space, you're free to move, to experiment, to try some really cheap tools. And I don't want to call them cheap because you built one of them, but inexpensive compared to what a CRM was 3 years ago. You're talking about a tenth of the price, and you can get 10 times as much out of it. And same thing for agencies like mine. For a tenth of what you would pay, or a big brand would pay for my level of credibility, you can get 9 times the results out of it, because I can amplify that with AI. And I think that's really cool time.
I don't know if I'm in the same boat as you too, because like I remember working on some of those brand projects and stuff back in the day where you'd hear about, oh yeah, that FedEx branding project or the Google logo was $500,000.
Yeah,
not anymore. I'm sure there are still those big agencies and they're still doing that, but holy crap, can you get a lot of money, or you can get a lot of product and output for that much now. You can do.
Yeah, what I found 2 things fascinating about that in my career. One is, you'd be surprised, like, I was the 24-year-old kid who actually drew one of those logos, or I made this banner campaign, and they're like, yeah, okay, you still paid somebody $25 an hour for that $100,000 logo, but I'm glad that you liked it. The other side of it, though, is that I've seen other people just smash it and go, why? You could spend $1,000 on the logo and 99,000 on a direct engagement, community engagement, or activation campaign, and really do something super cool. And that's where I fell in love with it. It was like, oh, well, if I'm the person behind the scenes doing this stuff, I could probably just do that faster, cut out all those middlemen and middle managers that you're talking about, and then come up with a way to get brands to activate. And so that's what I'd really like to talk to you about here for a few minutes, is go ahead and be self-serving. Tell us about Wrench AI and how these tools like help people do better marketing for the right people, rather than just more marketing.
We've been stumbling, I think, in what we call it stumbling in the right direction for about 8 years, trying to focus on personalized communication and recommendations for people. The technology is there designed to help you answer who to talk to, what to say, and how to say it. There is no one size fits all. And I mean, we actually started the company before a lot of the technologies that we needed to existed. And so when you log into Wrench, it basically allows you to create a short profile around yourself. You get a personal agent that's dedicated to you. And then it tells you, and you set up a little bit about yourself and your company, brand packages, business context, and stuff like that. It utilizes those to start powering lead scoring models. And if you go, you can take it like right an hour after setting it up, go to LinkedIn and go and get very detailed profiles on any profile that you log in on. It'll pull out and it'll do personality analysis on par with a Myers-Briggs. It'll give you product recommendations for your product. It will give you personalized messages that incorporate you and your background, your personality, your company and their brand kit, their messaging methodology, and the audience and the recipient. So it actually links all of those things together so it can actually go, okay, it sounds like it came from you, but it is adapted to their learning and their preferences according to like their personality profile. You find things like we mentioned extroverts earlier, but they prefer social proof more often. It's just part of how they think. So if I'm going to position it, there's guys like me that are more likely to do like data driven. I want JD Power and Associates type stuff. There's people that prefer expert testimonials, but it'll adapt its communication to that audience. And then you can take and use some of that same brand kits to start scraping competitor ads and start learning what kind of messages they're using, map those out. You actually have an interface where you can see, hey, what benefits or other messages seem to be resonating for your competitors. And if you plug and integrate your Facebook ads and other stuff, you can see if they work for you. So you have this kind of three-pronged, we have contact analysis, lead scoring, we have personalized and creative messaging and optimization, and then we can deliver it through a personal agent, and you can make multiple agents and stuff if you want as well. But it's there to go, okay, cool. We can, again, help you. Who do you talk to? What do you say? And how do you say it? It has personas and stuff like that are built in and data-driven. I patented that with my team some years ago. That's where like the machine learning-based hyper-targeting comes in. We figured out like if we use this to identify people that are using jargon from your category, slang, they're more likely to be the early adopters. So if they're the early adopters, they need fewer and less education. They're more likely to be high margin customers. They're more likely to try beta product or stuff that's a little bit iffy. Start there, don't go to the late adopters want discounts and everything has to be perfectly smooth. They don't put up with as much. Our patented stuff is machine learning based hyper targeting that helps do that segmentation, and it works in any vertical. So again, you go, hey, they can detect that this guy I'm selling golf shoes and this guy's using golf shoe jargon. Cool. Let's talk to him first. And it makes it that much easier to convert and get prospects online as customers.
Yeah, really cool. And I would just second that it works a lot. I've seen these campaigns numbers that we had a generic campaign. We did 4 different personalities based on the disc profiles and separated our list by enriching our data, and then rewrote those campaigns into the 4 different personality styles. And depending on the personality, we saw a 30% to 3,000% increase in appointment setting.
There you go.
That. And the messages are hilarious. I know you know a ton about this because I can tell by what you've been saying. But if you don't, it's super funny to look at these messages because it's almost like blatantly obvious that ID, like CEO type driven people, the message was so short that the signature was above the fold. It was like 3 lines. Here's what your team should be doing. Click this, send it to them. And then those mentioned high detail people, the laggards that want the reports and everything. We had statistics in there, multiple bullet points, links to case studies and stuff. And they had the highest unsubscribe rate. And I was like, this is working. Because you can tell like those types of people don't put up with slop and waste in their inbox, and they're going to unsubscribe. The high D driven people are moving so fast, they never unsubscribe. They got 10,000 unread messages in their inbox. Like we know their open rate is going to be tiny and stuff. But once you start doing that, it makes a big impact in the results. The appointment setting, I think, was 10 times as much as the generic.
See, I love that you bring that up because I talk to too many people that don't have ROIs or case studies that they can even cite, because I know there's a ton of people out there that aren't working on it. But what you're talking about happens, I won't say more often than not, but it's not uncommon to see 20x returns on this type of stuff. It is a really good investment. We had one client that we did that was like a month or 2 ago, and they saw 4,300% ROI. And I'm like, just a heads up, this is a great ROI, but it isn't that crazy. It's a really good use of money. It is one of those. When we had COVID, about 10 years worth of online behaviors shift online. We stopped traveling for business meetings and stuff like that. A lot of people just went, look, my online persona and profile and who I am between the Zoom chats and everything else is who I am. And a lot of that stuff, a lot of that digital exhaust is like fully readily available, especially if you're doing B2B, good, funner, better, easier, in my opinion. And it's out there and people actually want you to use it. They punish you if you don't. Especially if like you're already a customer and you're not doing stuff like this, they will punish you for it. You'll lose that brand loyalty for sure.
I've been saying that about since the pandemic too. So now 5 or 6 years where it's insulting to me if you send me a sales message and you have not looked at my Like I routinely get a ton of stuff about starting podcasts and things. And you mean the 3 I have with 1,000
Yep.
episodes and 4 million downloads? Maybe you check
Yep.
those first before you pitch me on starting a podcast. What are we doing? It's blatantly obvious. It's out there in the I'm not trying to hide this. It's not like, oh, I had a secret fight with my girlfriend last night that you don't know about. This is public. I'm trying to make this as public as humanly possible. And you're not looking at it.
Exactly. Yeah. The cold outreach now, again, if they don't go, hey, I went and saw your high school was Olympus High and you're a Titan. It's to your point, is you better at least have done that. I'm still not going to answer you for that, but you better at least have done that. You better at least know who I am.
So I have 2 questions for you before I let you go. One is, what do you think wins in the next 3 to 5 years? Does hyper targeting, personalization, and better marketing win, or does the kind of hyper scale automation spam the world be the default?
I think it's relationships. I think a big part. So OpenAI and ChatGPT, their big innovation was not LLMs. They didn't invent those. Were around in the 90s. Their innovation was they got it into a user interface that made the user capable of seeing the output immediately. So that chat agent interface, that was the innovation. The immediate feedback was the innovation. I'm pretty sure that interface is going to be the next interface for probably the next 10 years. And there's so much disruption. There's so much noise out there. There's so much fake articles and everything else going on social that a big part is I'm going to have my agent go and view and do all the web trailing and searching and everything for me and come back to me with only the answers that are interesting to me. So for that reason, I actually think that the trick, bigger, fewer, better, but I think it's going to be relationships. It's going to be, who do you actually interact with? And you need to be more selective with it because, again, that agent is going to have, right now, the incremental cost of content is going to zero. We can make a new photo quality, no Photoshop. It looks that good. The next piece is the incremental cost of that conversation is going to zero. And for that reason, people are only going to have really good ones with people they really want to talk to, and they're going to have infinite options. So you will need to be hyper targeted. You will need to be a specialist. And the interaction of your agent, your site's agents to other people's agents, because they'll be doing the conversing and then coming back with your answers, needs to be, we really are the answer for you and you're going to enjoy working with us.
And how do you see it shaking out in the next 30 years within our lifetime? What sci-fi movie do you think we end up in? Is it like Minority Report with ads popping up based on our retinas, or do you have a better, more optimistic view of the future?
I am usually the pessimist. I've been the optimist as of late. 8 years ago, we talked about what we thought the organizations would do, and they are doing now what we thought they would do then. We went, middle management is going to collapse. You're going to have a ton of very flat, relatively small organizations with max 100 people with almost no overlap between their functions. Each of them is going to have probably several of their own agents. I think about 7-ish. And I think in the future, we need to start getting smarter and realizing that now that we automate that, for the most part, you don't go home, you don't pause. Anyone who does pause is going to be very obvious, and they're going to be out the door relatively quickly, and they're going to learn their lesson, come back to work and not make the same mistake again. I really do hope that management and everything else starts to look at, now we have that problem solved. Say it's support tickets, whatever it is. We've got that issue, that drudgery solved, the salesperson research angle. We've got that solved. What else can we be doing that adds value? And I hope for that reason, we have another level of enlightenment, just because if you think about it, like in history, we've been confined by the amount of cavemen. You didn't have the option to do anything except go look for food. All right, we solved that problem. Now what? I hope we're doing that now so we can really get into, okay, cool. What can we really do? What can we invent? And let's start working on Dyson spheres and really cool stuff.
I think so far we're still really early in this, that we seem to just be doing more of what we were doing 5 years ago and not really higher level tasks. But I do think at some point that fails to scale. There's no more work to do, and so you have to get to higher level tasks.
I think we're transitioning right now into the critical thinking zone of this kind of automation. So before it was, can I automate my business? And the next piece is, now we can't necessarily trust it. How do we start to develop and start making better decisions based upon it? If we get and start making better decisions based on, okay, cool, I'm going to stop using fallacies, data analysis, or whatever else to make better decisions, inevitably that has to start reflecting my work and my lifestyle and what I'm building. So I hope that means we start building bigger, better, smarter things as well, which help us all leapfrog. So long answer to a short question, but that's it.
I think it is a great answer. So last one for you is at Wrench AI, Dan Baird on LinkedIn. Good follow, Burn the Map podcast. how
Yeah.
can you help us or we help you?
Anyone that's interested, I'd love to talk to. We're looking and one of the things that we're doing as a late initiative is seeing if we can help agencies actually build additional agencies. People are shifting and building that behavior to incorporate AI. There's a ton of companies that have really innovative methods. We used one like personality stuff. You talked about DISC. We used Big Five Ocean. And we're going, hey, we took a tool and a method. We figured out how to basically digitize it at scale. And we ended up with a platform, which is Wrench, that does that. We can test messages, we can test people. We want to talk to agencies, digital marketing agencies or strategy firms that have a method that they want to see if it works at scale. Our platform does that. I can analyze people's personalities. I can put whether or not they're using specific words into your lead scores. If you have a method like I invented my own DISC, I invented my own personas method, I've built and tested my own. It worked a lot. There was no universal rule, but I know there's other people out there smarter than me. And we have a lot of the infrastructure that would take them 5-10 years to build. If you have a hypothesis and you think it would scale, I want to talk to you. I imagine you have those listeners here and people that are very much specifically looking for more, again, authentic kind of, here's how we do this. I want to talk to those people. How can I help you? Name something. I can help. I want to drive business your way. I like authenticity is a really smart place to position. Keep doing what you're doing for sure. You let me know as far as I can think. I probably have actually some referrals and stuff for you because we're not the agency side itself. We're the underlying numbers beneath the agency.
Yeah, what I think is really fun and why this is a good fit is that there's to me there's always more work to do. Like as the tools get better, and you said this, as the incremental cost of content gets to zero, the question becomes what should you make and why and for who, and like
What
the
content?
questions get more interesting rather than what can we afford or what can we do that's new or different. I think those are still great questions, but it becomes really fun. And I think when the execution is easy, it becomes more fun to come up with the ideas. And that's what I like
Yeah,
to do. And then we could just go, okay, let's go test it. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but love that. Let me come up with a cool campaign and see how quickly I was right or wrong.
I love it.
So
I love
we'll
it.
talk more about that. And until next time, you can go to avenue9.com, learn more about what I just talked about there. If you want to have me interview your founder, your top salesperson, your best clients, figure out the stories that you can amplify with AI. That's what we do at Avenue 9. And until next time, keep going. Have fun, everybody.